My dad drained my college fund to support his secret family, then told me, "You'll figure it out." I worked 3 jobs, paid for college myself, and bought mom a house. When he showed up, demanding I pay for his daughter's tuition, I kicked them out without a second thought. Hey, Reddit! My dad bailed, stole my future, replaced us with a whole secret family, and thought I'd just roll over. Nah. I built my life from scratch, took care of my mom, and cut them off clean. But they weren't done trying to crawl back into the picture. Before we get into that mess, here's how it all started. My name is Nolan Lucas. I'm 16 in this part of the story, and back then my whole world was pretty simple. School, helping my mom, and trying not to set off my dad. My mom, Talia, worked part-time at a clinic. My dad, Bennett, owned a small contracting business and acted like that made him king of the house. I didn't have a job yet, just chores, homework, and trying to stay out of the way when Bennett came home in a mood. That's the setup. Sunday morning changed everything. Mom flipped chocolate pancakes, humming like she could hold the house together. Bennett's chair was empty again. Another weekend of running errands. The same, got things to handle, no details. Looking back, the flags were bright. Colder voice, clipped answers, phone guarded face down, nights stretching later. He'd drop his keys and disappear to the bedroom or straight back out, never asking about school or mom. The house felt like a stop to him, not a home. But at 16, you don't always connect the dots. You just feel the distance and pretend it'll snap back together. Mom slid a plate toward me and forced a small smile. Eat before it gets cold. She looked tired. Not normal tired, worn down at the edges. But she always tried to act fine around me. Then the doorbell rang. I actually assumed Bennett forgot his keys again, so I got up without thinking. When I opened the door, it wasn't him. It was a process server holding a tablet and a thick envelope. "Delivery for Talia Lucas," he said. My stomach dipped a little, no reason why. I called her over. She wiped her hands on her apron, still smelling like chocolate and warm batter, and signed. She thanked the guy like she always did. She opened the envelope right there at the table, and everything inside her just collapsed. I'd never seen my mother fall apart like that. She didn't cry cute or quiet. Her whole body shook. Her hand holding the papers dropped to the table. She sank into Bennett's empty chair, like her knees couldn't hold her. Her breathing turned uneven. She covered her mouth like the sound she was trying to hold back was too big to let out. "Nolan," she whispered. But then nothing came out after that. She just stared at the papers like they were something poisonous. I walked around the table and saw the first page. Petition for dissolution of marriage. It didn't even look real. Not for a second. Not when she started crying. Not when I touched the papers. Not when I read Bennett's signature at the bottom, like he'd signed off on a delivery. "Mom? Mom? What?" She shook her head, unable to talk, tears slipping nonstop. The pancakes on the stove were burning, and she didn't even turn around. She had suspected he was cheating. Maybe. She had suspected distance. But this? She had no clue he'd gone this far. This secretly. No clue he had a whole other life forming behind our backs. She was discovering the truth in real time, and it broke her in a way I didn't know a person could break. I grabbed my phone to call Bennett. I didn't know what else to do, and right then it buzzed with a text from him. "Sorry you had to find out that way. I'll explain later." That was it. No emotion, no apology that meant anything. Just a message like he was rescheduling a dentist appointment. I looked at my mom, shaking so hard she could barely breathe, and something inside me shifted. It wasn't confusion anymore. It wasn't even fear. It was the first moment I understood that Bennett didn't see us as people. Just loose ends he needed to cut clean. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't a mistake. He had planned his exit step by step while still eating the food my mom cooked and acting like we were in his way. And sitting there in that kitchen, I realized he didn't care who he crushed to get free. That was the morning I stopped viewing Bennett Lucas as my father. That was the morning I learned what betrayal actually looks like up close. The week after the papers arrived felt like someone turned the sound off in the house. Mom moved around like she was on autopilot, doing dishes, folding laundry, staring at nothing for long stretches. She talked only when she had to, mostly short sentences. I tried helping any way I could, but most of the time she didn't seem to notice anything around her. 3 days in, I walked into the living room and found her sitting on the couch with her phone pressed to her ear. The coffee table was covered in papers, forms, envelopes, things with legal stamps on them. She was talking to a lawyer, but the look on her face made it clear she barely understood a thing he was saying. I don't know what that means," she said, rubbing her forehead. A proposed division of assets? Does that mean he already... She stopped, eyes shining but refusing to cry again. I sat next to her, listening to her voice crack every few words. She thanked the lawyer, hung up, and let the phone rest in her lap like it weighed too much. I'm trying, she whispered, mostly to herself. I'm trying to keep up. Another envelope came the next morning. Same kind of official print, same thick packet. Our county moved fast on the calendar, but never granted temporary orders, so dates landed while we were still catching our breath. I brought it inside, and when she saw it, her shoulders dropped. She didn't even open it right away. She just sat with it resting on her knees, staring at the flap like it might bite. Can you sit with me? She finally said. So I did. She opened it and more forms spilled out. Requests for mediation, information about finances, dates she needed to confirm. She scanned the lines slowly, lips moving like she was trying to translate it word by word. Every few minutes she asked me what something meant, like I had any idea. But she needed someone there, so I stayed. Later that afternoon, we logged into the bank accounts together. I wasn't expecting good news, but I wasn't prepared for what we saw. My college fund, gone. It was a parent-owned education account in his name, so he could empty it and the bank wouldn't even speak to me. Not low, not touched, empty. We still had view access through the old household login, enough to watch the zeros sit there, not enough to touch anything. Mom covered her mouth and leaned forward like someone punched her. That money was for you, she said. That was supposed to be safe. I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at the screen, the blank zero where years of savings used to be. Bennett didn't just leave. He made sure the future I planned was wiped out before he walked. Mom tried to call the bank, but the representative said the account was under Bennett's name and he had full access. That was it. No help, no sympathy, just rules. That night she barely touched dinner. I barely tasted mine. I kept thinking about how Bennett knew exactly what that money meant to us and didn't hesitate for a second. 2 days later, Mom came home from mediation looking like she'd been walking through rain without an umbrella. Her hair was messy, face pale, hands trembling just a little. She didn't even take off her shoes before sinking onto the nearest chair. What happened? I asked. She took a deep breath that sounded shaky. He wants the house. I blinked. What? He left. Why would he? He said, she interrupted softly, that he paid for it. So it's his. The deed has both our names, but he's waving bank statements like a flag. The mediator said our state uses equitable division, not an automatic equal split, so a judge could order a sale and divide whatever's left. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just sat there staring at the floor like she was trying to understand how someone could go from sharing a life to taking everything on the way out. He already took your college fund, she said, voice thin. Now he wants this too. He wants everything. For the first time since this whole thing started, she looked genuinely scared. Not because of money, because it felt like he was unmaking our life piece by piece. That was when something in me snapped clean. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't shock anymore. It was anger, sharp and steady. He didn't just want to leave us. He wanted to erase us. Mom put a hand on her forehead and tried to breathe evenly. I don't know what he's doing, Nolan. I don't understand why he's trying to take everything. I stood up, paced once, then grabbed my jacket. Nolan, Mom asked quietly. Where are you going? To talk to him, I said. Face to face, I'm done getting everything secondhand through paperwork. She didn't try to stop me. She just watched me with tired, heavy eyes and nodded once. That was the moment I decided I wasn't letting Bennett rewrite our lives without looking me in the eye first. I texted Bennett asking to meet. He replied in minutes like he'd been waiting. Afternoon. Coffee place on 7th. Short. No emotion. Typical. When I got there, I spotted him immediately. But he wasn't alone. He sat at a corner table with a woman my mom's age, sharp haircut, expensive coat, polished expression, and next to her was a girl, maybe 12, legs crossed, tapping on her phone like she owned the place. They looked like a family on a magazine cover, a family that had practiced being seen together. For a second, I thought I had the wrong table. But then Bennett looked up, and the girl glanced at him, then at me, and smirked like she already had an opinion. He waved me over without standing. Nolan, sit. I sat, staring at the girl, then the woman. Bennett noticed and said, totally casual, this is Corinne, my wife, and this is Vesper, your half-sister. The words hit hard. Not because of the title, sister, but because of the math. She was 12, which meant this family didn't start when he left. It started while he was still living with us. More than a decade of lies. Corinne gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Nice to finally meet you, Nolan. I've heard a lot. Vesper didn't smile at all. He looks older in his pictures, she muttered, not even whispering. Bennett ignored the jab. He leaned back like we were discussing normal things. Your mom told you what's happening. Yeah, I said. She also told me you're trying to take the house. He shrugged. I paid for it. It's mine. That's not complicated. He meant he covered more of the payments. Not that the deed was only in his name. I stared at him. You left. You drained my college fund. And now you're taking the house? Don't get dramatic, he said, rolling his eyes. You'll be fine. You're 16. You bounce back. I had to make choices. He paused and gestured toward Corin and Vesper. For my family. Corin cut in smoothly. Nolan, you have to understand. Your dad didn't do anything to hurt you. He was doing what was necessary. Life isn't always fair, but he had responsibilities. I felt my jaw tighten. He had responsibilities with us. With Mom. Corinne gave a small, pitying laugh. Your mother knew things weren't working for years. It's not fair to blame Bennett for wanting stability. Stability. Right. A whole other family behind our backs. Vesper glanced up from her phone. Are you seriously mad about money? He didn't owe you anything. Kids should figure out their own stuff. I looked at her, stunned. You're 12, she shrugged. And? Doesn't make me wrong. Bennett didn't correct her. He didn't even blink. I turned to him. You took the money I was supposed to use for college. It was in my name anyway, he said, completely flat. You're acting like I stole from you. Be grateful I put anything aside in the first place. You're a man. Deal with it. I felt heat rise in my face. Not embarrassment. Anger. The kind that doesn't explode. It just builds until your chest feels tight. Corinne leaned forward like she was offering wise advice. You have to stop blaming him. Families evolve. People move on. It's better this way. For who? I asked. For everyone, she said, like it was solved. Vesper chimed in again, louder this time. Honestly, this is embarrassing. He tried to talk to you and you're sitting here acting like you're the only person who matters. My mom doesn't make scenes. Maybe take notes. Corinne gave her a proud nod instead of stopping her. Bennett looked at his watch. This is going nowhere. Nolan, you need to accept reality. I made my decision. You and your mother will adjust. Adjust. Like we were rearranging furniture, not watching our life get ripped apart. Something snapped in me. Not loud, not messy, just final. I pushed my chair back. This was a mistake. Bennett sighed like I inconvenienced him. Grow up, Corinne added. Try being grateful. At least he's being honest with you now. Vesper smirked. Bye, I guess. I walked out without responding. I didn't look back once. Outside, the air felt colder than it should have. I took out my phone, texted Mom that I was on my way home. When I got home after the meeting, Mom was sitting at the table with a cup of tea she hadn't touched. She looked up when she heard the door, hopeful for a second, like maybe things turned out better than she imagined. I didn't drag it out. They were there, I said. All of them. Her face fell instantly. I told her everything. How long the other family had been around, how Bennett shrugged off the savings, how Corinne defended him like we were strangers causing trouble, how Vesper talked like she'd known me her whole life and decided she hated me. Mom pressed her lips together and tried to nod like she could handle it, but her eyes filled fast. She put a hand over her face and shook her head, crying quietly. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear I didn't know he had another family. I sat with her. She kept apologizing even though she wasn't the one who did anything wrong. She wiped her cheeks and squeezed my hand. We'll get through this, she said, voice unsteady but trying to be strong for me. Later that night, I sat on my bed, staring at the cost of my dream school on the laptop screen. The number felt unreal, like something meant for other people. Not kids whose dads emptied their accounts and walked out. Nobody was coming to cover it. Nobody was stepping in. It was on me. So the grind started. I spent the next months filling out every scholarship application I could find. Local ones, national ones, tiny ones with odd essay questions. After school, I stocked shelves at a small hardware store. On weekends, I helped a neighbor with landscaping just to earn a little extra. I saved every dollar. The divorce finalized the spring I turned 18. They scheduled everything quick and denied everything that might steady us. No temporary support the whole time. Bennett didn't show up to the last court date. He didn't need to. He already got what he wanted. The house had to be sold. The judge said the title being in both names didn't end the argument. They look at contributions and what's equitable, and his paperwork was enough to force a sale and split the proceeds. Mom got almost nothing. Child support was minimal and only covered those last few months before I aged out. Custody meant nothing by that point. I was old enough to choose where to be. Mom moved us into a small rental closer to her work. She put on a brave face, but I saw the cracks. Late night crying, quiet mornings, papers spread across the table when she thought I was asleep. Still, she supported me harder than ever. She encouraged me through every application, every job, every test. I graduated high school with honors. There wasn't much celebration. Mom hugged me tight. Bennett didn't show up. I didn't expect him to. That summer before college, I worked full-time anywhere that would hire an 18-year-old fast. Morning shifts in a warehouse stacking boxes. Afternoon deliveries for a local supply company. Night security shifts at a construction site. By the end of each week, my body felt bruised. But I kept going. I needed the money. I saved as much as possible, keeping it in a separate account Bennett couldn't touch. When the acceptance letter arrived, Mom cried again, this time from pride. The financial aid covered part of it, but nowhere near enough. So I structured my life around survival. Campus job in the morning, shelving books and running errands for a professor. Tutoring in the afternoon, math, English, whatever paid. Night shifts, sometimes the warehouse, sometimes security, sometimes delivery routes. Every day was a schedule with no empty space. One week, the warehouse needed coverage for a night shipment. I agreed to work overnight, thinking I could grab coffee and stay awake for my morning exam. Instead, around 7 in the morning, after 13 hours lifting boxes, I sat on my dorm bed just for a minute. The moment I blinked, I blacked out. I woke up at 11. The midterm was at 8. I sprinted across campus and found Dr. Salma Ortega in her office. I explained everything, but she shook her head. She tapped the syllabus with her nail. Bold line near the top. No makeups except documented medical or religious conflicts with a dean's letter. Work conflicts are not excused. You missed the exam, Nolan. I can't make exceptions for work schedules. No hesitation, no sympathy. I went to the scholarship office next. Ms. Priya Nolan listened, checked my file, then looked me dead in the eye. You can't afford mistakes. One more academic slip and you may lose your scholarship. Thin ice again. I walked out with my stomach in knots. One missed exam could destroy everything I'd worked for, but the hits kept coming. That same week, Mom's car died on the way home from work. The repair bill wiped out almost all the money I'd saved. I paid it anyway. Mom kept insisting she could take a bus or ask a coworker for rides, but I didn't let her. She'd spent enough time struggling. A few days later, I came home to find Mom at the kitchen table, moving papers around like she was reorganizing them. She tried to smile, but she wasn't fast enough sliding one letter under a magazine. I saw the heading, Overdue Notice. Rent financial fallout from Bennett's mess was still landing on her years later. She tried to tell me it was just a mistake, that she'd fix it, but her hands were shaking too much to sell it. I felt something steady harden in my chest. Not panic, not fear, just resolve. I took extra hours wherever I could get them. I didn't ask questions, I didn't complain, I just worked. Meanwhile, Bennett's side kept playing perfect family online. Corinne posting vacations, Bennett posing like nothing bad had ever happened, and Vesper posting things like, some people don't know how lucky they are to have a stable dad. She liked taking indirect shots. She liked pretending I was the problem. But I stopped giving them space in my head. I worked, I studied, I survived. Semester after semester, I pushed through. I was exhausted, broke, and stretched thin, but I refused to fold. By my second year of college, I had my routine down to the minute. Mornings at the campus job, afternoons tutoring, nights at the warehouse or security shifts. I showed up to every class, every quiz, every lab, because one mistake could cost me the scholarship that kept me here. I didn't socialize much, but I wasn't here for that. I was here because I refused to let Bennett's choices decide my future. I kept saving small amounts whenever I could. It wasn't much, some weeks I had nothing left over. But little by little the number grew. I didn't spend it. I didn't touch it. I kept telling myself it was for later, for something bigger than rent or books. Something for Mom. Around mid-semester, everything got interrupted by a scene I should have known was coming eventually. I was crossing the main quad with Briggs and Raffi, talking trash about our stats professor, when I heard a voice I recognized instantly. Nolan! Hey! I turned slowly. If I'd turned any faster, my eyes might have rolled out of my skull. Vesper, 16 now, loud like she was still 12, standing in front of a campus tour group like she owned the place. She pointed at me like she'd spotted a zoo attraction breaking free. You! She said, stomping toward me. So you do go here. Unfortunately for both of us, I said. Briggs choked on a laugh behind me. Vesper flipped her hair. Are you going to explain to your friends how you keep harassing Dad? I blinked. Harassing him? Vesper, he hasn't texted me in years. Her face twisted. Wow, so funny. She turned to my friends, raising her voice on purpose. He ignores Dad's messages. Dad's actually heartbroken. But you wouldn't know that because Nolan acts like he's the victim. A couple of the tour kids stared at me like she was revealing a scandal. I smiled at her. Calm. Controlled. Ignore her, I told the crowd. She's been 12 for 5 years. Frozen in time. Gasps from the tour group. Briggs muttered, "Oh my God," trying not to laugh. Vesper stepped closer like she wanted the last word. You should be grateful Dad even cares. He has a real family now. Yeah, I said. I noticed. He left us for it. Congratulations on being the upgraded product, though. Must be exciting. Her jaw actually dropped. She spun around and stormed off, her tour guide hurrying after her like he was paid to control small disasters. Briggs elbowed me. Dude, savage. I'm tired, I said. Not nice. Big difference. 2 days later, I got a call from Aunt Mireya, the closest thing I had to extended family. Son, she said, I talked to your dad. He says you won't speak to him and he's very hurt. I sat there staring at my ceiling. Hurt? Did he say that before or after Vesper tried to audition for World's Worst Publicist? She sighed. He loves you. Mireya, I cut in. The man emptied my college fund, forced us out of the house, and then told everyone we went no contact because he was hurting. If that's love, I'll pass. She went quiet. I didn't fill the silence. That call told me everything I needed to know. Bennett wasn't just lying to us. He was rewriting history for everyone else. Playing wounded father, doing PR like he ran a brand, not a family. Fine, let him perform. I had better things to do. The next 2 years passed the same way. Work, class, more work. My GPA stayed high, because fear is a great motivator. I showed up to everything early. Professors noticed. Even Dr. Ortega, who once treated me like a roach, started nodding at me in the halls. Mom kept me sane. Every time she said she was proud, something heavy in my chest lifted just a little. Senior year came fast. I didn't go to parties, didn't travel, didn't waste time. I was too busy building the future Bennett said I'd never manage. When graduation came, the stadium was packed. Everyone around me was laughing, celebrating, waving at families in the bleachers. Mom was in the second row. I found her immediately because she was crying just from seeing me walk out. She waved so aggressively, her program flew out of her hand. When they called my name, Nolan Lucas Honors, I heard her scream louder than the whole stadium. People laughed because her pride didn't fit in her seat. I walked across the stage calm and steady. Handshake, diploma, photo, done. But it didn't feel like the victory. Not yet. After the ceremony, Mom hugged me like she was holding a piece of a future she never thought she'd see. I'm so proud of you, she said, choking up again. You did this without anyone's help. I held her shoulders and said, not without anyone. I had you. Later, as we walked to the parking lot, I checked my phone. Aunt Mireya had texted me a screenshot. Bennett had posted in some community group, couldn't be at my son's graduation today, but I'm proud, hoping he'll reach out soon. I laughed under my breath. Classic Bennett, trying to claim a moment he didn't earn. Mom looked over. What's funny? Nothing, I said. Just someone desperate for attention. The real victory wasn't the diploma. It was the plan I'd been saving for. A plan Bennett would never see coming. And a plan that had Mom's name on it. A few years later, I didn't disappear. I clocked in. When the number in my account finally looked like down payment plus closing costs, and my debt to income wouldn't make an underwriter flinch, I started touring places. Small houses, old houses. The kind with good bones and tired hinges. Then I found it. A quiet little place on a dead-end street with a porch big enough for 2 chairs and a backyard my mom could plant in. Not fancy, not new, but ours. I bought it. In my name. Zero connection to Bennett. Zero chance of him taking it. I didn't tell Mom. I drove her there after her shift and handed her the keys. Nolan, what is this? It's yours, I said. Well, ours technically, but mostly yours. She stepped inside, sunlight across a small living room, quiet walls, and covered her mouth like she was trying not to sob. Nolan, she whispered. I don't deserve this. I laughed. Mom, you deserve 10 of these. I'm just starting with 1. She cried the right kind of crying. Relief, not collapse. We walked the rooms like kids, opening every cabinet even when we'd already seen it. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Naturally, that lasted a whole 24 hours. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. Notifications, tags, mentions. I opened one and was greeted with a post from Vesper. So proud of my dad for raising such a hardworking brother. He bought a house. Love this family. There was even a picture of the house. Her friends commented hearts and congratulations like she'd been cheering me on since birth. I stared at the screen. Briggs texted me. Bro, what is this troll doing? I typed back, lying for likes. I didn't respond publicly. I didn't need to. People believe whatever gets them the most attention. But that wasn't the end of it. 2 days later, I was at the house fixing a cabinet hinge when I heard a car door slam outside. I looked through the window and froze. Bennett, Corinne, Vesper, all standing in my driveway like they had a key. The address was public record once the sale closed. If you wanted to find me, you could. Bennett gave me a smile that wasn't a smile at all. There he is. Our homeowner. Our, I muttered. Bold choice of word. Corinne strutted up the walkway like she'd been invited. This place is adorable, Nolan. Such a smart buy. Didn't ask, I said, but they kept coming. Vesper walked straight past me into the living room. I like it, she announced. Could use better furniture, though. I'd propped the front door for airflow while I worked. She crossed the threshold like it was hers. Cool, I said. You can go home and think about that from there. She frowned like she'd never been told no. Bennett clapped his hands together. See, Corinne, I told you all those lessons I taught him stuck. Hard work pays off. I laughed. Loud. Lessons? Bennett, you taught me exactly one thing. Don't end up like you. His smile cracked. Corinne stepped in, trying to recover the moment. What your father means is... No, I cut her off. He means he wants credit. And that's not happening. I paid for this house. I worked for it. Mom deserves it. You three showing up here like this is... What? A photo op? Bennett's jaw tightened. We're trying to celebrate you, son. Don't call me that, I said. And you don't get to celebrate anything. You didn't help. You didn't support. You didn't show up for anything except your own ego. Vesper crossed her arms. Dad just wants to be proud of you. Then he can do it from his driveway, I said, far away from mine. Corinne's expression soured. We're family, Nolan. Incorrect, I said. You're visitors. Uninvited ones. I opened the door wide and stepped aside. Time to go. Bennett stared at me like he couldn't believe I wasn't folding. Like the sun he walked out on was supposed to melt just because he showed up. When none of them moved, I added, either you walk out or I escort you out. Your choice. That did it. Corinne grabbed Vesper's arm. Come on, let's leave. Bennett lingered a second, eyes scanning the house like he still wanted to claim it. You're being ridiculous, Nolan. And you're trespassing, I said. He left. They drove off without another word. Mom came home an hour later, found me tightening a loose handrail and said, Everything okay? Yeah, I said. Just handled something. But inside I knew. They weren't done trying. Not even close. After I kicked them off the property, I expected at least a few weeks of peace. I should have known better. People like Bennett don't handle being told no, especially not by the kid they spent years pretending didn't exist. The first sign of trouble came 3 days later. He called me 3 times. Left a voicemail on the 4th. Nolan, we need to talk. I want to fix things between us. I listened to the message twice, mostly because I was trying to figure out if he was joking or delusional. His voice sounded practiced, like he'd rehearsed it in the mirror to make sure he hit the right emotional beats. He didn't say, sorry. He didn't mention Mom. He didn't acknowledge anything he did. He just wanted to fix things. Translation, now that I look successful, he wants to be included in the picture. I deleted the voicemail. That same evening, Mom answered a call in the kitchen. I heard her voice go tight. When I walked in, she held the phone away from her ear and mouthed, Corinne. I raised a brow. Mom shook her head but kept listening. Corinne was crying, loudly, dramatically. The kind of crying you do when you want to make sure everyone in the room hears it. I don't know what to do anymore, Corinne sobbed. Bennett is devastated. He's not eating. He just sits there, saying Nolan hates him. Mom kept her voice calm. Corinne, after everything that happened, we're trying, Talia, she cried. Why is Nolan being so cruel? He has everything now, and all Bennett wants is a relationship. I took the phone gently from Mom. All right, I said. Let's cut the performance. You're not crying for him. You're crying because the door closed and you weren't expecting it. Her sobbing paused like I'd hit a glitch in her script. I don't understand why you're doing this. You understand fine, I said. You came here uninvited. You tried to take credit. You tried to guilt my mom. That didn't work, so now you're calling her crying. Cute strategy. Doesn't work on me. She sniffed hard. You're breaking this family. Which family? I said. Because you three sure as hell aren't part of mine. She hung up. Mom sighed and sat down. Maybe I shouldn't have answered. You didn't do anything wrong, I said. They just don't like consequences. 2 days later, Vesper went nuclear online. She posted a long rant, full paragraph mode, dramatic as a school play. Some people don't appreciate the father who raised them. Some people throw away family for money. My dad is hurting and his son doesn't care. I hope he sees how selfish he's being before it's too late. With pictures of her and Bennett on some beach vacation, captioned to look like he was heartbroken and fragile. Comments poured in. Your brother sounds awful. You two deserve better. Stay strong, Queen. I read the post once. Briggs read it twice and then said, Bro, she's like a villain in a teen drama. But worse. I didn't reply to her. Not publicly, not privately, because people who create their own drama don't deserve an audience. The next move was predictable. Vesper showed up. Again. I was unloading a box from my truck when I saw her walking down the driveway like she lived there. She didn't knock. She didn't hesitate. She marched right up to me. I can't believe you're doing this to Dad, she said immediately. You're ruining everything. I didn't answer. I just stared at her until she shifted uncomfortably. She tried again. He cries at night. You know that? He says he doesn't know what he did wrong. I snorted. He probably means what he got caught doing wrong. Her jaw tightened. Stop pretending you're better than us. I don't have to pretend, I said. She looked stunned, like nobody had ever pushed back at her. Dad wants this family together. You're the only one refusing? I leaned on the truck and crossed my arms. Vesper, listen carefully. You don't get to talk at me like I abandoned anyone. I was 16 when he bailed. He drained my future. He tried to take our house. And you want to blame me for not hugging him on command? You're breaking the family, she repeated, frustrated. That man broke the family 12 years before I even knew it existed. She clenched her fists. If you cared about us, there's the problem. I cut her off. I don't. And I don't have to. Her eyes narrowed. So this is it? You're just shutting everyone out? Not everyone, I said. Just the people who think disappearing for years is fine, but showing up for the photo op makes them family. Before she could fire back, a car pulled up. Bennett stepped out with that irritated face he always wore when things weren't going his way. He walked toward us with forced calm. Nolan, he said, we need to talk. We really don't, I replied. He exhaled sharply. Look, I didn't want to bring this up, but things are tough right now. Work is slow, clients aren't paying, your sister's tuition shortfall. There it was. The truth hidden behind all the guilt trips. Money. Vesper's about 21 now. Of course, this suddenly matters. Let me guess, I said. You want me to pay for Vesper's college? He hesitated, then nodded slightly. Just until things pick back up. You're doing well now. It would mean a lot. I laughed. Not loud. Just enough for him to hear the disbelief. You came here begging, I said. After everything you did, you really thought I'd bankroll your new family. He stiffened. Don't talk about them like that. What other phrase should I use? The people you built a secret life with while my mom cooked you breakfast. Want me to be polite about it? Corinne stepped out of the car then, trying to pull her calm face together. Nolan, please. No. I pointed toward the street. All of you. Out. Vesper glared. Bennett gritted his teeth. Corinne tried to speak again, but I cut her off. You don't get to vanish for years and walk in when it's convenient. Not here. Not again. Bennett muttered. I always knew you'd be ungrateful. And I always knew you'd need something from me one day, I said. Now you know the answer. I opened the gate and pointed outward. Leave. Now. They left. Angry, embarrassed, muttering under their breath. Vesper shot me one last glare, like she wished she could set the house on fire with her mind. When the car disappeared down the street, I walked back inside. Mom was in the kitchen, unpacking groceries. She looked up at me, worried. Everything okay? I nodded. Handled. She smiled, slow and relieved. Good. Let's make dinner. In the quiet of our new home, with no voices yelling, no guilt calls, no fake tears, I finally felt it. We were free. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.